What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here at the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other half of the Side Guys, Tad the Side. And Tad, we're coming close. I mean, we're less than a month away because as of recording, it is March 27th, and the first round of the NFL draft is on April 25th. So, I mean, yeah, we're less than 30 days away from the NFL draft commencing. It's an exciting time. And I know me and you are both heavy in our research with all of these prospects because there's a lot to get to. And yeah, it's exciting times. It's, stressful times. It's a combination of both, but it's fun. It's fun for sure.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in the U.S. military command because I have an app on my phone that has 2 countdowns currently. Three. One was the birth of my niece, who was just born the other day. So happy, I guess first birthday, happy birthday to Paige Cosentino. I don't know if they're gonna be happy I said that, but she's beautiful, and so that clock is gone. Now I have 2 more. One is my student's test on April 9th. So I have a countdown to that, and then the other one is the draft. And so now when I pull up that app, it literally looks like I'm a U.S. general with like a nuclear countdown of just like 2 different things at the same time. And I'm like, okay, I should work on this one thing, but I need to do work on the other thing. I'm bouncing in between. We are doing a lot of research this year. It's going to be good. I think this is going to be our best live stream since we've been doing this. Is this our 3rd year?
Doing the NFL draft, this is our 2nd year doing it on our own, but we were a part of the LAFB Network's live stream, which happened 3 years ago. So I guess technically you could say 3 years in a row, but having our hosted NFL draft, that is now 2 years in a row that we'll be doing it, the second one.
And I'm telling you guys, this will be our best one ever. Second time's the charm.
We'll see how it all ends up going, but yeah, it should be a lot of fun. We're getting all the preparation for it, but I mean, that's what today's episode is going to be tailored towards. All of our future episodes, I think, we may have a few, quick detours in between, but I think, the rest of the month now going forward, be a lot of draft content. And so, we're going to be kicking off today's episode talking about all the quarterbacks. I mean, we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about guys at the top, maybe some guys that intrigue us, some guys that are maybe just, maybe I'm not as high on this guy compared to some other people. So, I mean, we're going to have a lot of conversation there. But, I mean, guys, one other thing that is happening soon, the MLB season is starting tomorrow. I mean, unofficially, I guess it started last week when we had the Soul Series between the Dodgers and the Padres, but every team will be playing tomorrow.
I was so confused when our fantasy team was down by 7 already. I was like, how is that possible?
Yeah, so we had the Soul Series. So technically it has already started, but every team will be playing tomorrow, and that is officially when the season will begin, opening weekend. So, I mean, guys, we talk about this all the time, but Underdog Fantasy has got you covered with, we're obviously an NFL podcast. We talk about the fantasy football and the NFL draft, but I mean, Underdog Fantasy has got you covered with all the sports. They got you covered with the NBA. The playoffs are happening right around the corner. Talk about the MLB season starting, got the NHL playoffs right around the corner. March Madness is still going on with the men's and the women's bracket.
You got starts UFC, back up tomorrow.
Exactly. You got the UFC, you got the MMA, you got boxing. I mean, you got anything and everything in between, guys. They got you covered. So, I mean, get into the action on their platform with some betting action. You make anywhere between 2 and 5 different prop picks, and the more you bet, the more potential money you can win. And guys, Underdog wants to get you into the action by giving you a discount on your initial deposit. Use our promo code DESAI, DESAI. You can double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500. So, I mean, hypothetically, on your very first deposit, your initial deposit, if you were to put in that $500 into the Underdog Fantasy account using our promo code, you will get it matched dollar for dollar. You could bet with $1,000 of credit on their betting platform. So, guys, use that promo code. You see it on our screen. If you're not watching us, I can drop it for you again. It's DESAI, DESAI. Double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500. Because it's a good time to be a sports fan because there's a lot going on right now with all the things that I mentioned before. But get into the fun there. So bet on that Underdog Fantasy platform. It's a great tool to sort of get your sort of feet wet with some sports betting and, just have a ton of fun on it. That's the biggest thing for sure.
Shohei Ohtani just saw that promo code and he is already on board.
I really wish he was a viewer or a listener. Jokes aside, that.
Is he litigious? Did I just put the show in danger?
You might have, which is very risky on your part. But
Ryan,
you know what?
Ryan, you are our parent company. We expect support.
But you know what? Maybe it's still a little bit of a risky move. I know we sort of, let's sort of get into the episode here, but let's sort of start at the top. And we sort of had things sort of cleared up with the trade of Justin Fields going for the Chicago Bears now as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll see whether he starts the season for the Steelers or whether it's all going to be Russell Wilson. But it cleared up a big question mark that a lot of people had as far as whether the Bears were going to stick with Justin Fields and build around him, whether they're going to trade that number 1 overall pick, whether they're going to draft Caleb Williams. All that's cleared up, it seems like. Justin Fields, like I said, is now a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're holding on to that number 1 overall pick. Keenan Allen, newly acquired Chicago Bear, was at Caleb Williams' pro day at the USC pro day. They dapped each other up. So it seems like things are locking into place that Caleb Williams is going to be the number 1 overall pick. The not so big secret that the NFL sort of shared here. It's the draft is really going to start at number 2 with the Washington Commanders, or whether they even hang on to that pick. But Tad, before we even move further down the draft, let's stick with number 1. Let's stick with the Chicago Bears. Let's stick with Caleb Williams. What are the expectations for him? Because it's sort of going down here that Williams is in a situation, probably the best situation that a rookie quarterback has ever landed himself in, especially being the number 1 overall pick. Because you look at nobody saw the Brock Purdy ascent coming, but he was built into a situation where he had a lot of help and
Russell
support,
Wilson,
right?
very similar.
Russell Wilson,
situation.
Exactly. That's a very good reference as well. But just this is the number 1 overall pick, landing in a situation here where it's just he's got all the pieces that he needs on offense. The defense is actually looking pretty good as well. But just you also have to remember the Bears had that number 9 overall pick too. As of right now, maybe they'll trade it. We'll see about that. But just they could add to that team either on offense or defense with that number 9 overall pick. So it's just they're in a very good spot. So just looking at the situation, it seems like the sky is sort of the limit, even in Caleb Williams' first year coming into the NFL. But Tad, that's where we want to kick off today's episode. Is just what are the expectations? What's realistic? Can he be a Pro Bowl in his rookie year? I know it's happened with a lot of rookies before, but just with him and his situation and just are we setting the expectations too high? Or is it actually very realistic to imagine him doing very, very well in his first year in the NFL and with the Chicago Bears?
So first off, in very me fashion, I'm going to veer us off track just a bit. I was forming, shut up. Right. I was forming this take. Hey, my goal tonight is to get every name right. If I've done that, I don't care about anything else.
Should that be your goal every episode?
It is. And yet I fail all the time.
You actually dig yourself into those holes where you come across a name and you don't check with me first before we start. And then that's how you get yourself into trouble. But
Jackson Powers, Ben.
I guess you had the comma, then that's how you would read it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's how it appears on a roster list, right? Or a student list, right? So that's I'll give you that one.
I've actually done that in the past. But no, just real quick, I was forming this take in my head. The Bears should have kept Justin Fields. They should have kept him and traded him in season. I was
very much in the same boat too.
They should have traded him in season. They could have got a big haul for him if it was in the middle of next season. But as a topic we will most definitely be discussing in the offseason. So in the meantime, let's talk about the new guy in town. Like you said, it's a foregone conclusion to give people a little preview into our, you know what, let's make ourselves sound professional, into our production meeting where we were discussing this. We're cool like that. We were kind of debating of do we debate Caleb Williams versus someone else? And it was just no, that debate was over months ago. And so we were like, well, what about his expectations? Because that one phrase, I'm so glad you said this, that everyone is saying now, this is the best team a rookie quarterback has ever stepped into, which may very well be true. I'm not doubting the validity of that statement. I am doubting the expectations that are coming its way. So, yes, to answer your question, we 100% should temper expectations when it comes to Caleb Williams. And I'll go into stats why, but the first thing I need to back myself up with this, because I want Al Rose, followers and listeners and viewers coming after me. This is not to say that Caleb Williams is going to be a bust. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I think that this is a great situation for him to step into. It's a situation that's stable. It's not a build to win. Oh my God, I hope he's Mahomes right off the bat. Roster, other than Keenan Allen, this roster is built to last for another 3 to 4 years. And that brings me to my point is there is a pandemic across the NFL draft where it's with rookie quarterbacks, you're either good immediately or we start talking about getting rid of you the very next year. We saw it with Justin Fields, the guy who had the job before him.
It's very true. As we've gotten further into these years now, it's just it seems that leash with starting quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks, first round quarterbacks, I should specify that too. The leash has gotten a lot shorter than where it was maybe even just 10 years ago.
It's not a leash, it's a collar. There is no leash anymore.
To that point, yeah.
It's just as soon your fingers around that collar ring, and then the second that first year doesn't go great, you start loosening it as a team, and I think that's a big mistake. I was fighting for the Bears to keep Justin Fields, and I still stand on that take. I think they would have been better off going after Marvin Harrison Jr., but whatever. So point being is that I don't think Caleb Williams is going to bust, but I think his development is going to be slower than people think. And before you start yelling at me, so I decided to do a dive. So Joe Burrow's rookie stats, and now fair enough, before Bengals fans start yelling at me, I'm aware he only played 10 games. But in 10 games, he had 13 touchdowns and 5 picks. Good start, definitely good, but in 10 games, I wanted a little bit more for my first overall pick. And I know what people are also going to say is, well, how good was that offense really? It was good. They had T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, AJ Green, and Joe Mixon his rookie year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And yes, I know that, Higgins and Mixon were also fellow rookies at the time. I was actually shocked by this. Tyler Boyd had 5 years of experience.
Yeah, he's been in the league for a while.
He's older than I thought. But point being, that was not a nothing offense. In fact, if you ask me, that might have held the title for best offense a first overall pick has ever walked into. And again, I will say those stats again with, 13 touchdowns and 5 picks. Not bad, but that happens to Caleb Williams this next year. More than halfway through the season, we're going to be talking what's wrong with Caleb Williams because of these expectations sent in to deal with him. And then I looked at Josh Allen, and just to prove I'm not being biased here, I did avoid his rookie year because I know he played in some games, so he's never the full-time starter. His second year where he was the full-time starter threw 20 touchdowns, 9 picks, 3,000 yards. Again, it's not bad. I'm not saying these guys have bad first full years, but that's just, a 2-to-1, nearly a 2-to-1 ratio on touchdowns to turnovers, not great. And also is interesting note that, I didn't realize this. He never hit over 60% completion rate until his third year.
Yeah.
So not only was he not throwing a whole lot, again, 3,000 yards, he wasn't hitting a whole lot of his throws either, which is probably why that was so low. And before Bills fans yell at me of he played 12 games in his rookie season, he also threw 12 picks that season. So you're lucky I'm not mentioning that, even though I just did.
That's true. That's true.
And finally, I went all the way back to my boy because I was thinking, yeah, Josh Allen, but a lot of people, he had a lot of doubters. Joe Burrow, a lot of people were is he 1 year wonder? A lot of doubters. So I was thinking, what has everyone been saying about Caleb Williams? That he is the best prospect since Andrew Luck. So I went back and looked at Andrew Luck's rookie stats. They're worse than I remember. And it's this shocked me. 23 touchdowns, 18 picks, 54% completion rate. Mm-hmm. So even Andrew Luck, the next GOAT, struggled in his rookie year. So my point being is I think he'll put up a positive TD to, interception ratio, especially when you include the rushing stats. But my problem with Caleb Williams, my biggest concern with him is that he panics under pressure. Now, I'm not saying that the Bears offensive line is bad, but it's also not the best in the NFL. And so you look at Caleb Williams' worst game as a, college football player, it was against Notre Dame when half his offensive line was out with injury. He got constantly pressured, threw 3 terrible picks. And so I'm a little worried about, like, yes, he is a great improviser, but at times you just got to learn when to go down, man. Just throw the ball away. Don't try to force it. Yeah. And this kind of like the Steph Curry debate, at basketball, but is Mahomes instilling this mindset in young quarterbacks of like, if I run around enough, something's going to happen. It's like,
it's true. You can't look at that
always.
That way.
So I think Caleb Williams is going to have a solid rookie season, but we need to give him time to develop. And that is my one concern is he going in with such high expectations that, if he has a rough rookie year, all of a sudden we're like, is he the guy? And all of a sudden the Bears find themselves in no, God, what's a time travel movie? It's just like some endless loop of just like non-ending, just, we'll give this quarterback a year or two. And it's just, no, you got to give him, like I said, Josh Allen didn't hit 60% completion rate till his third year. So I hope he gets that time because I do think Caleb Williams will be good. But at the same time, all these moves made in the offseason have increased the pressure so much on him.
That's fair. The one thing I'll also say, though, I know you sort of touched on it a little bit, is that the Bears' offensive line situation is not the best, but it's also not the worst. So I think based on all the examples that you gave, like Cincinnati's offensive line was terrible. So it's like they had the offensive weapons, but their offensive line was terrible. There's a reason Joe Burrow got hurt and only played.
I was about to say, what do you mean
games.
was? What do you mean was? That was 5 years ago, and they're still terrible.
I know. I thought they made some improvements, but yeah, it sort of hasn't been working there. So it's like that's one situation. I can't really speak for Josh Allen's offensive line. I don't really remember it all that well, but he had his issues coming into the league, like you said, where it's just like his accuracy issues. Can he fix that once he gets to the NFL? Is he going to be just a power guy, not that all around guy that you're looking for? He obviously was able to correct that. So we can't really speak on the offensive line. Now, maybe you can speak a little bit on the Colts offensive line, but overall, I think I'm just saying that his Caleb Williams entering Chicago, he's got a better than average offensive line. He's got all the skill position players. And like I said, he's still got a lot of chances, the Bears, that is, I should say, to improve that offensive line. That's possibly 100%. Their weakest part of their offense, right? Where it's like they have all the skill position players, but at number 9, they can go offensive line. Later in the second round at the very top, because they're picking up the top of the second round, they could get an offensive lineman at that point too. So it's like they have some shots to improve that offensive line, but they have the skill position players. He's going to come in and land in a good situation. So, I mean, it's not in the realm for me. Maybe this is me thinking a little bit too highly for obviously our good friends Matt and Jay here, but it's not in the realm to think that Williams can surpass 4,000 passing yards and at least 25 passing touchdowns. Like, I mean, in the situation that he's in, especially with the league going in that direction, it's not ridiculous because you look at in NFL history, we've had 5 rookie quarterbacks throw for over 4,000 passing yards. We have your guy, Andrew Luck. I know you said he had the best season, but he did this at the time. Set the rookie record for passing yards. I think he still has a record, actually. Yeah, Justin Herbert was close to breaking it.
He
still has a record.
Yeah, that's because we had That's because we had goddamn Donald Brown to run the ball.
That is true. So Andrew Luck, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud just did it last year. Cam Newton did it in his rookie year, and famous Jameis Winston did it back in 2015. And then 4 rookie quarterbacks have thrown for over 25 passing touchdowns. You got Russell Wilson, you got Peyton Manning, you got Baker Mayfield, and look who's on the list twice. Justin Herbert, he did both. So, I mean, I'm not saying Caleb Williams is in that same boat as all of those guys, but, I mean, you look at the situation that he's landing in, I don't think it's ridiculous to see those sorts of numbers. So, I mean, we'll cover all the fantasy implications once we actually get to the point we actually get the understanding that, yes, he's a member of the Chicago Bears, but he's a low-key guy that I may be targeting in fantasy drafts, like towards the end, in case I'm missing out on some of the top guys that would have filled out my roster there. But like I said, we'll save that conversation for later. But I think he's in a good spot. I think he's going to land in a good spot. I think Bears fans should be a little bit optimistic. It's just whether everything can come together and some of the like things that we'll get into as far as like, he plays a lot of hero ball. There's a lot of things where it's like there are situations where his accuracy is not all the greatest too, but he's that playmaker that you want at the quarterback position. So I think the Bears had a good situation. I agree. I think they also should have hung on to Justin Fields, but this is the direction that they're going in. So yeah, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm optimistic. I'm
100% I'm optimistic. I want to be like the doom and gloom of like, he's going to bust, but like at the same time, you got to remember this division has done a very good job of staying competitive. Detroit's made some really good moves.
Detroit obviously with the NFC Championship game. Minnesota's going to be a little bit of question mark.
Minnesota's going to be the doormat
situation. And then obviously the Green Bay Packers, they were able to make it to the playoffs, absolutely blew out the expected favorites of the Dallas Cowboys in their first round playoff game. So yeah, they have a lot that they're building out with a very young core there as well. So yeah, there's a lot of competition in the NFC North. I 100% agree with you. But Ted, let's not talk about Caleb Williams because I feel like there's, not as much that we could talk here. But
He's
let's sort of
good.
exactly. I think that's you can go and leave it there. Let's get to the next tier here, and let's talk about Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye because a lot of people are slotting Jayden Daniels as being that number 2 quarterback off the board. Now, yeah, you included, obviously, but there's still a lot of people in that camp that was like, preseason before Jayden Daniels had the season that he had and won the Heisman. People were like all aboard the Drake Maye train.
I said Drake Maye was better than Caleb.
You like Drake Maye more than Caleb Williams. I remember you had that take for a while. Obviously, you have corrected yourself, and so it's like that's not the same take anymore. But just there's still a little bit of debate as far as who you prefer over Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye. And like we said, the draft sort of starts at number 2 with the Washington Commanders as far as which direction they're going to go in, because obviously they're pretty sure. Like, I mean, I'm 99.9% sure they're going to go quarterback with the number 2 overall pick. They need a solution there. So I really don't think they're going to go with, I don't even know who's on their roster anymore. Because I was about to say Jacoby Brissett, but I remember he signed New England. So
Sam Howell's in Seattle now.
Who's in quarterback there for them now. So it's like, clearly that's an issue. Like, if you don't know who the starting quarterback is there, it's like, yeah, you need some solutions there. So we're here to sort of discuss, Jayden Daniels versus Drake Maye. So let's start with everybody's, kind of unquestioned number 2 quarterback right now. Maybe at RS is a little bit different. That's how this debate will sort of go here. But just like, you look at Jayden Daniels, and the one thing that I sort of, you got the answer for us about the Washington starting quarterback right now?
I do.
As of right now?
You'd be shocked. It's Drew Bledsoe.
No way is it Drew Bledsoe.
No, I actually do remember him signing. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Marcus Mariota is currently
Marcus Mariota. Yes, starter. That is correct.
And do you want to guess their backup? He went to Georgia. Is not an
Carson Beck?
No, Carson Beck is still he's in this year's
draft.
It's
still in college. Yeah, that's my mistake. Stetson Bennett then?
No, it's not Stetson Bennett. Hence the not an alcoholic joke, which was very cruel.
Then I don't know.
Jake Fromm.
Okay. Nice. All right. So clearly they need some help with the quarterback position. So let's dive into Jayden Daniels first here. So, I mean, one of the big things that I sort of saw here, Tad, is Daniels as good as he is, or did he benefit from playing with 2 potential top 10 receivers in this upcoming draft? Because, I mean, I think you see that a lot.
Before you go on, it's interesting because there are 2 comparisons to that concern. One is I remember a lot of people having that same concern with Joe Burrow.
True.
Of saying, like, did Burrow just benefit from having, like, one of the greatest, probably the greatest college football offense of all time around him? Mm-hmm. We now know, I do think that elevated his game, but I think we can all agree, Joe Burrow, pretty good. True. The other comparison is Johnny Manziel, where I remember reading a scouting report where it was like, I can't tell if Manziel made Mike Evans or if Mike Evans made Manziel. And we have definitely got our answer.
We have a clear answer there. Very clear answer.
So that is a very real risk because it's one end of the spectrum or the other. There is no in between there.
And it's actually funny that you bring up Joe Burrow because I have in my notes here because he had a Joe Burrow-esque type of meteoric rise also at LSU, because I mean, as you look at prior to 2023, he never threw for more than 20 passing touchdowns. He also never passed for more than 3,000 passing yards. And then all of a sudden, in his final year, he surpassed both of those marks. He had 40 passing touchdowns. I think he had close to 4,000 passing yards. I can't remember the exact number here, but just like, he absolutely skyrocketed that final year, which obviously led to him winning the Heisman Trophy, which led to him being the number 2 quarterback off the board. In some people's eyes, maybe he's even the best quarterback, depending on how you want to view it that way. But just, you can't deny the skills because, like I said, I watched the tape. I see the running ability. I see the passing ability. The big thing that I saw, though, and this is the same thing with Caleb Williams, and I think we both had this in our notes, our initial notes here. He needs to take care of his body because, I mean, Caleb Williams is a little bit bigger. I think he could take some of those bigger hits, but he doesn't slide. Jayden Daniels needs to learn to slide because otherwise, I mean, he's coming into the NFL as sort of a similar body to Lamar Jackson, which a lot of people also fear, like, can he hang up to that? But counterpoint to that is that Lamar Jackson now is a winner of 2 MVP awards. I mean, clearly he's found a way, but he's also doing it mainly on his legs. So it's like you wonder whether Jayden Daniels will make that similar transition. But based on the tape that I'm watching, he seems more comfortable staying in the pocket and making his plays that way. The one thing I will see, though, is just that his accuracy on throws 20 yards or less, very hot and cold. Like sometimes he looks on it, but then there's other times you're just like, he missed that guy. Like, what's going on here? He had the time.
He sails some of them.
Exactly. So that concerns me. So it's just like, is that a product of just like him processing too much or just like overthinking? Is it just, a situation where he's just like, I know Tad, you had on your notes where you weren't very happy with his footwork. I didn't think it was that bad, but I did see some consistency issues. So maybe that's really into it. But just especially throws 20 yards or less, you need to have that accuracy because that's obviously your chain mover type of plays where it's like that's going to keep the ball going down the field a little bit more. You don't need those big junk plays all the time. So that concerns me a little bit. And I just like, coming into the NFL, I think he's got the skill set that any NFL offense is going to appeal to. The real question that I just have, and I'm just not sure whether he's going to develop further, because like you sort of brought up earlier with Josh Allen, where it's like this was the same concerns. It was like you got the rocket arm, you got the mobility things, but just was the accuracy thing going to be a hindrance to him? He was able to sort of clean that up. Now he's one of the top 5 passers in the league, right? So it's like, can Jayden Daniels follow that same path that Josh Allen had, or is he going to fall victim to, like I said, he's going to have to do the more Lamar Jackson route where it's like, okay, maybe I don't got the passing with me, but I'll be more of a running quarterback. But just like I said, based off the tape that I saw, he wants to be more of a quarterback instead of a runner. So it's just like, that's the real question that I have. So it's like maybe the first season, 2 seasons, he's going to be electric on both sides as far as being a passer and a runner. But then as it continues, like you said, where it's just like, that's the ticking clock, where it's just like, how long is that leash going to be? This guy's making plays for you, but he needs to develop all around. So just like, how much is the franchise going to value that? Or they're just going to be like, you know what? This guy's making plays for us. He's doing good. I think we're fine. We don't need to worry about making a change here. So what are your thoughts on Jayden Daniels? Like, I mean, is there debate here? Obviously, we'll get to Drake Maye in a little bit here, but just like your initial thoughts on Jayden Daniels versus Drake Maye, just the debate of him being the number 2 quarterback taken off the board.
I think he's far away the number 2 quarterback. This is a guy who, if you watch one of it might have been our very first video of this draft season, I said off the bat, I'm not a Jayden Daniels fan. And then the more, because I will freely admit that was based off like 2 games that I watched. And I was like, okay. And the more of his tape I actually sat down and watched, just like you, the more I fell in love with him, the more I was like, this guy, he's just a better dual threat quarterback. And in today's NFL, that is just a more valuable asset. And I feel like I'm in Jurassic World right now. Like, we need to protect the asset. It's like the thing's it's living. But no, I just think that you absolutely nailed everything. And actually, I want to, since you clearly do know him pretty well, I want to read you Bleacher Report's scouting report on him.
Okay.
So I'm paraphrasing most of this. I'll say what I'm directly quoting. Good arm strength, can stretch the field really well. Impressive mobility, however, is prone to errant throws. Needs improved footwork, and this is a direct quote. His arm talent, athleticism, football IQ, and personality are all ideal. The question every front office will ask is if they can get the most out of him. Agree, disagree?
I agree with that. With that.
All right, well, interesting fact. That's not his scouting report. That's the exact Bleacher Report 2018 scouting report for Josh Allen.
There you go. See, that's what I said. I can see those sort of similar comparisons.
Exactly. I was so mad when you said that. I was like, God damn it, dude. You're still my shock factor.
I'm sorry.
But I'm not even joking. Like, especially that quote at the end, that's Jayden Daniels all over again. So I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. Is just how patient can this organization be? Because he's going to be, I think, if he goes to Washington, I'm a little worried because Washington reeks of a team that wants to be really good, really quick with the new ownership, new coaching staff and everything. And look, I'm not fans of them. I'm just wearing it because it's a very, very comfortable shirt. But I think the best team for him to go to is the Patriots. They are a very patient organization. Robert Kraft understands of like, hey, and that's why the Gerard Mayo hire was so interesting, because I think if Kraft wasn't patient, he would have gone after Harbaugh, would have gone for the big sexy hire. Instead, he knew Gerard Mayo is a Belichick guy, but for a new generation. So I think the Patriots are his best fit. I think he will go to Washington number 2. And yeah, I just hope they have that patience to let him develop, because he has all the physical tools. It just needs a little bit of refinement. Oh, why did and that's why I said that in my notes about his footwork, that it needs work. It's because I think that's why he's sailing on a lot of those deep passes, which is good, because that doesn't mean he's inaccurate. It just means his technique needs some work. And as a coach, one is much easier to work on than the other. So like all the promises there, it's just exactly, it's like, yeah, have that patience. You got to understand, it's funny because I can already hear Ravens fans yell at me like, you left out Lamar Jackson's full year. Yeah, there's a reason. That's the outlier. Patrick Mahomes is the outlier.
That's true.
I mean, and I think the best evidence for what you and I are saying is, I'm not saying he needs a rest. He needs to be benched this long, but look at Jordan Love. I thought Jordan Love was going to suck. I've been a Jordan Love hater
I think a
for
lot of people did. A lot of
years.
people had that take that just like, I don't
Years.
know how he's going to look.
And he looked awesome. And yes, inconsistent, fair enough, but
Yes.
he looked good. And so I think there's real, and I hate that, talk of like, I can't believe the Packers are getting away with this. Their third great quarterback in a row. It's like, I can, because they're smart and they let them develop for a while. And it's just like, I don't know why that is confusing so many people, but I agree. I think there's enough physical promise there that I love him and I like him more than Drake Maye, but not that I hate Maye either.
All right, well, I think that's a good transition point. Let's sort of kick things off with Drake Maye now, because I mean, yeah, like I said, this was sort of everybody's preseason pick as far as being that next guy taken after Caleb Williams, whether that's number 2 overall, but just 100% the second quarterback taken off the board as the season progressed. Obviously, Jayden Daniels had the season that he had, won the Heisman, so I think things shifted a little bit. But there's still some people. I think that group has grown a lot smaller compared to where it was before in the preseason, but I think there's still a group of people that still value Drake Maye as that number 2 quarterback taken off the board compared to Jayden Daniels. So I got to pass to you here first. Just what are your thoughts on Drake Maye? Obviously, you said you like Jayden Daniels to be that number 2 quarterback taken off the board, but I mean, just like, why do you not think that Drake Maye could be that number 2 quarterback taken off the board?
Like I said, I think I just value the more explosive guy in today's NFL.
Okay.
You see that with just like even like Aaron Rodgers is running like quarterback options right now. So the guy who can do that more, do RPO better, is going to get the nod. But that's not to say I don't like Drake Maye anymore. I still see the promise in him. You're going to touch on this more, but his production in college was wild, was absolutely insane. I won't
Indeed.
go into specific.
Indeed.
But he is a better version of what people seem to think JT McCarthy is, where like he does everything pretty well. The one thing that worried me the more and more I watched his tape, and I've been watching him for 2 years now, because I loved him last year. It's when the pressure gets bad. It's when he's put under pressure. He has this bad tendency to stick to one read, and just once the play inevitably falls apart on him, he's almost the opposite of Caleb Williams, where it's like, can you play a little hero ball? Like you're just kind of going down a bit. So I just worry about how he'll end up with NFL pressure and what his ceiling is. I think that's what impresses me more about Jayden Daniels is his ceiling is like exactly Lamar Jackson. Drake Maye, his ceiling is more of a after this year, this isn't a terrible comparison. More of a Baker Mayfield, like a guy I'm happy to go in as a starter. Or an Anthony Richardson type, where it's like, I don't know quite what we have, but it looks pretty good. So let's just see if it can survive. So no, when it comes to Drake June, I think that he's a very solid.
Wow.
He's a very solid quarterback prospect. He definitely should be a top 10 guy. I've seen some hot takes out there like he wouldn't even be a first round quarterback if they weren't so hyped up. No, he's top 10 worthy. But I think he is solidly owned QB3, which is where he should be.
That's fair. That's fair. I guess maybe consider me part of that small group, because actually the more that I watched Drake Maye, I had to sort of rewatch some tape of Jayden Daniels versus Drake Maye, and I don't know. There's something more that I sort of like with Drake Maye. It depends on what game
you watch. It depends
on
what game you
it's
watch.
very true. I agree with that. I think depending on the game that you watch, it sort of gives you different impressions about some of these prospects. And so I think that's why when you're looking at scouting reports, like some people list, like these are the games that I watched, then you sort of have an idea. Or you could go back and watch those games to sort of get a better feel as far as what this scout saw, as far as why they built their scouting report this way. So I completely get that. But just he's got the make and build that you want at the quarterback position. I think here's the big thing, and I think you brought this up earlier, and I'm going to sort of back it up with the stats actually here, but just you have a better idea what you're going to get with Drake Maye, because he's had 2 solid years of production at North Carolina. So this guy was able to build off a solid campaign his freshman year, his redshirt freshman year, followed it up with a good season in his sophomore redshirting year. Strong arm. I think he can put the ball wherever he needs to. I mean, it just looks good coming out of his hands. It's like that's what you like.
He is the most accurate quarterback in this year's draft.
I would say that.
Even over Caleb. I would say even over Caleb.
Oh, I think so too. Just it looks like it's very natural for him. It's not like he's overthinking anything. It just looks very clean and good coming out of his hands. Big thing too, and I think you touched on this a little bit. Just like he didn't have much support when it came to offensive weapons or
Nope.
offensive line, because there's a reason why you said that. Just like, maybe he needed to play a little bit more hero balls, because he was put in situations where it's like he needed to get out of the pocket, he needed to run for his life at times. But then even there are times where it's like he's hitting his receivers in stride, hitting them wide open, and they're dropping balls for him too. So I mean, there's not that much that he was getting in terms of support yet. He was still able to put up this stat line in 2 seasons, 3 technically, because he did play a few games in his freshman year, but it was mainly his redshirt freshman year and his sophomore year. 8,018 passing yards, 63 passing touchdowns, and only 16 interceptions. So, I mean, without the support, he was able to put up those types of numbers. So I know you said that he wasn't playing a lot of hero ball, but it did take a lot of it on himself, and he was still able to make a lot of plays and clearly put up a lot of good numbers. Now, yes, you could argue maybe some of that came in garbage time, where he's sort of given a lot of free chances to sort of make a lot of yardage and get some touchdowns, but still, to put up those types of numbers with the support that he had, or lack of support, I should probably put, is more accurate there. It's still impressive. Now, obviously, there are some things that you don't like. His progression skills, like you said, he's sort of more of a one look sort of passer. But I think that's sort of, once again, it's just like, I think he had to rely on that being in the system that he was. He didn't have the beauty of like, oh, look, there's Malik Neighbors. Oh, look, there's Brian Thomas Jr. Oh, look, there's all these options that I had that Jay Daniels has. I don't think he had that. So it's just like, I think he sort of had to sort of rely on like, who's the guy that I could trust? If not, I need to go out and make a play on my own or throw the ball away. I think that's a lot of things that you see here. I think he can sort of develop that as he goes to the league, because, Tad, this is something that we say a lot with these quarterbacks that come into the NFL. There's very few that's like, oh, yeah, I like the way he was going through his progression. This is pretty a common thing that I've written with a lot of these quarterbacks, this year, last year, even years before. That's just like, yeah, the system is just not built for them to be progression read sort of passers. But I think that could come with time. He could get out and run, but here's the big thing that I like more than Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams. The man can slide. I mean, he's willing to avoid the big hit. He gets down. He avoids the big hits. I mean, he's willing to sort of take the minimal gains instead of going for the big plays. He'll just take what he can get and move to live to fight another day. Now, here's the thing. I was sort of intrigued when you said, I don't like the Jayden Daniels fit going to Washington. You liked it more with New England. I feel the opposite. I actually like Jayden Daniels going to Washington, because we talked about this before. Cliff Kingsbury being a Washington, he has familiarity with the mobile quarterback. He has familiarity with that sort of spread type of offense that I think Washington probably wants to build out there, with them signing Austin Eckler and the receivers that they have in Terry McLaurin and Jahad Dodson. They don't have Curtis Samuel anymore, but just like, I think they have more options there to be a little bit more spread. And so when you going to New England, I think you're looking for somebody who can run a more traditional type of offense. So I think Drake Maye fits a little bit better there. So yes, I'm saying Jayden Daniels should be the second quarterback off the board, but I think long term, I like Drake Maye's development a little bit more. I think there's just something about him that I think he's got a higher ceiling as far as a passer and just the overall intangibles more than the Jayden Daniels. I feel like what we're seeing from him is like sort of like he's got a pretty good floor right now, but I don't think his ceiling is as high. Whereas Drake Maye is coming in a little bit lower as far as the floor, but I like his ceiling to be a little bit higher as a prospect to develop all around talent, because I see so much more on tape as being a passer compared to Jayden Daniels. So yeah, overall, long term, I like Drake Maye more. But if you're asking me who's going to be that second quarterback off the board, I agree with you. It's going to be Jayden Daniels, but it's more because of a fit situation.
No, so that's interesting, because I think that, this was my very first, note with Drake Maye and our Master Doc scouting thing is, he would have been a top tier. He would have been easily my QB number 2. Hell, maybe even my QB number 1 had he come out in the draft a decade ago. And he was this exact same player. Like, he would have been the perfect late 2000s quarterback. But as I said with Jayden Daniels, we just moved away from that in the NFL, where now, again, this RPO, this kind of more fluid, let's let the play develop while you move around back there. That's kind of the new norm in the NFL. And I just have more confidence in Jayden Daniels pulling that off than Drake Maye. But at the same time, I do think I 100% agree. Jayden Daniels is boomer bust. That guy is not going to be like, hey, maybe he's okay. Maybe he's, like whatever. He's just kind of there. That's not him. Drake Maye, I could see being like, okay, solid. And another thing he has going for him is he played in the exact same system as the last UNC quarterback I hyped up, which was Sam Howell. And I will still defend Sam Howell. Kind of like what we were talking about, what Drake Maye did is, yes, he was the most sacked quarterback. That wasn't his fault. Yes, he threw, I believe he finished for the most interceptions this year.
That sounds accurate.
Yeah, which was not great. But at the same time, what the hell was he working with? It's
That's
like
true.
a double covered Terry McLaurin, a crap offensive line. The one thing you had going for you was at least your defense is good. And then they got, half of them got traded away.
It's true.
So, like, and Howell still did fairly well. Washington was in a lot of these games they didn't deserve to be. So, the fact that, okay, we had this one UNC guy, I usually hate that same school comparison. But like I said, since it was the exact same system and very similar play styles, by the way, I'm like, you know what? And Drake May's better. I'll say that Drake Maye is better than Sam Howell. So there is a lot of promise there. Like I said, I see no reason he should not fall out of the top 10. Yeah, I know he's not going to. That's just, draft chatter because everything's kind of getting a little slow. But still, at the same time, like he has way more haters than there should be.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Just to back up your point, yes, Sam Howell led the league with 21 interceptions. He also had the same number of touchdowns, so he was exactly one.
He played Jameis. He pulled a Jameis. Okay,
he kind of did. Yeah, 21 touchdowns to 21 interceptions, so that perfect 1-to-1 ratio there. So, all right, Ted, let's sort of get into some other quarterbacks here. Guys that were high, guys that were potentially high on, guys that were potentially low on. But before we actually want to get on that, because there's one quarterback that sort of fell out of that shuffle where it's like you're talking about Caleb Williams, you're talking about Drake May, you're talking about Jayden Daniels. I know sort of JJ McCarthy has sort of seen this rise during the offseason as far as like he's a guy that could potentially be that fourth quarterback off the board. But one guy that was initially thought to be a potential first round quarterback is sort of now on the fringe as far as like, will he go in the first round or will he not go in the first round? And that's Michael Penix Jr. So, I mean, really quick, before we get into some other quarterbacks that we want to talk to that probably not a lot of other people are talking about, what are your thoughts on Michael Penix Jr. about being a first rounder and just like, and just finish off your take with just, is he going to be a first rounder or will he not be a first rounder?
So look, Penix was a guy I really, really wanted to love going into this draft process. And the more I watched him, I still was impressed by him. But the more I was like, I don't know. Because at one point I was like, this guy's QB4 easy. Easy, I said. Not so much. And by the way, if you want to know who my QB4 and 5 are, because actually Penix isn't even in my top 5, our quarterback rankings are dropping on Twitter and on Instagram in just a couple days. You can check it out right below if you're on YouTube. Murray, he's better at the read, so he can do that at the end of the episode.
We'll get that at the end, yeah.
Yeah, but no, Penix even bust my top 5. And it was tough. It was close. But it's just tough because the way I describe him is he is the peak second round prospect. There is so much there to like, but my God, is there also a lot to work on. We said it before. He worked almost exclusively out of the shotgun in college. And that's not a bad thing. As you said before, that's a very common thing. But at the same time, and I'm not saying he's a lazy player because I felt bad writing this note. His footwork looked lazy. And like sometimes it looks great. Like when he hits the deep ball, it is like, wow, like chef's kiss. It's the exact opposite of Jayden Daniels, where it was like, that's why you nailed that deep pass is because you like hit your footwork very well. But then other times he's just like, and just kind of like dangles his leg out there. And it's like, what are you doing, man? So I have concerns about his footwork. He has great accuracy with a clean pocket. The second the pocket falls apart on him, he's not good. And yes, this is absolutely a race thing, but a lot of people are like, he's a mobile quarterback. No, he's not. Yes, he's black, but he's not a mobile quarterback, which is really, really rough. I would say, in terms of mobility, he may be like 7 or 8 in my top 10. Like if we just went purely off mobility, like I don't even know if he's breaking my top 10 at that point.
Okay.
So it's just the fact that he's a developmental guy, because I think again, and I'm kind of being a dead horse at this point. He's a perfect player to sit there for a couple years, and then 2 or 3 years down the road, he's good to go. Like that guy is going to be like a star immediately if he goes the right position where he can learn behind a really good quarterback for a while. Only problem is he's 24. So that's an issue. I think he's going to drop also because he's a lefty and the NFL is still, a little overreactionary to that. And so they're like, oh my God, old lefty quarterback. We can't draft this guy. And on top of those two, in my opinion, not so legitimate concerns, is a very legitimate concern that this dude's career almost ended like 4 times. Like he had 2 near career threatening injuries at Indiana. I think, did he suffer one at Washington as well?
No. That's the thing. It's like, are you going to get Indiana Michael Penix Jr.? Because that's the guy who constantly got hurt. Well, are you going to get Washington Michael Penix Jr., where he was completely healthy and he very rarely missed any games? So that's the big separation factor.
And keep in mind, I'm sounding like a doubter here. He was my pick to win the Heisman. I think he should have won the Heisman.
That's true.
But it's just like there's so much to work on there that I don't see myself investing a first round pick in him, no matter how desperate I am. I think that Bo Nix is better. I'm not going to give out where JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix fall, because you got to check out those rankings on Twitter.
True.
Got to check it out. But yeah, I see. Like you said, we were talking about earlier, was a much lower floor but a higher ceiling. So it's like, do you want to take that gamble with Michael Penix? And I'm fine with that in the second round.
See, that's fair. So I completely agree with everything that you're sort of saying here, but I think because of the intrigue of what you saw, because I mean, this is the big thing. It's like, yeah, we talked about Indiana Michael Penix Jr. versus Washington Michael Penix Jr. as far as the injury thing, but as far as performance, you really have to question. Sure. I'm pretty sure a lot of scouts are probably thinking about it this way, where it's like, are you going to get Sugar Bowl Michael Penix Jr., which looked like clearly he could have been better than Caleb Williams. Like, he could have gone the first quarterback out the word the way he was playing that Sugar Bowl. It's just like,
there was talk about that. Of like, there was talk of like, he's going to be a top 5 guy.
It looked amazing. It looked so good. It looked exactly the way that you want a quarterback to fly. I'm pretty sure scouts were like running to their GMs and say like, this is the guy we need to get. But then you follow it up 2 weeks later and you have a national championship performance by Michael Penix Jr. It's like, okay, which guy you're going to get? In a matter of 2 weeks, you got 2 different types of quarterbacks where it's like, okay, are you going on this guy where it's like, if everything's clicking, he looks like a surefire, possibly Hall of Famer? Or you're looking at this guy that's just like, you know what? The pressure got to him. He was sailing a lot of his throws. He just didn't look confident, and he's probably going to be a future backup. So it's like, that's the big thing that I think a lot of scouts have to think about. So for me, because of the intrigue, as far as like whether you're going to get Sugar Bowl Michael Penix or whether you get national championship Michael Penix, he's got to go in the first round because people want that 5th-year option on him, where it's like, I think they want just like, because it's the same thing as to why Baltimore ended up trading for Lamar Jackson. Because they're like, we want that 5th year to see. It's like, okay, let's see what we can develop. Let's see what happens here. If he's good, then it's like, we'll pick up that 5th-year option. If he ends up being the guy that just like, is not going to be a passer, more of a rusher, then it's like, we'll decline that 5th-year option. Then he'll just hit free agency a little bit sooner. So that's the thing here. So I think the same thing is going to happen to Michael Penix Jr. I think there's enough intrigue there. There's a lot of potential there. Like you said, I think the ceiling is still pretty high because he looks so good in that Sugar Bowl that I'm pretty sure
not even just a Sugar Bowl, but you watch his game against Oregon.
There's other games.
Oh, that Oregon game is so dirty.
But the only reason that I sort of bring up the Sugar Bowl is because that's on the national stage, on a big audience. Like, everybody saw this. They're just like, this guy looks amazing. I want my team to draft him if I don't have a quarterback right now. So I think scouts are going to see that. They're going to be like, this is the guy that I think we can unlock. Like you said, it may take a little bit of time, but I think if you could get that guy, that's like, who wouldn't want that guy leading your NFL team? So I think, like I said, because of that reason, they want that 5th year. He's going to go in the first round.
That's an excellent point that I did not consider. To be totally honest, I was like, damn. Didn't think of that, but and that's why I'm not an NFL GM. Exactly. Can you imagine like 32 pick is in? Well, boys, Penix will be there tomorrow. Yeah, but the 5th-year option. What are you talking about?
Forgetting about those things, I know.
But two things, I will also say about Penix is one, I hate this 24-year-old, detriment talk.
Everybody has this. Like, looking at all the quarterbacks this year, this is going to happen next year too. It's just like, because of the COVID year, this messes with a lot of things. So you're going to get a lot of 24-year-old rookies. You're going to get a lot of 25-year-old rookies.
But,
like,
okay,
this is just going to happen now.
And you and I both agreed, like, okay, give him a year or two to develop. Is any NFL team really like, shit, our quarterback's 26?
No, definitely not.
I'm almost 30, man. Like, I don't like this talk at all. It's like, okay, fine. You have a 26-year-old quarterback that, you had till he's 29, which is actually better news if you're a team, because that means you don't have to sign him to a 5-year, $300 million contract. You have that leverage of saying, hey, you're almost 30. How about 3 years, something a little bit more affordable?
So that's Cousins.
Yeah, that's fair. That's such an outlier though. Plus, I mean, let's just say he's white. That's definitely playing a role.
Whatever it is, he's making it work, man.
Coming off torn Achilles, I don't know, whatever. But the other thing I'll say about him is I actually came up with a list of team names. I'll be very interested to see if you what your thoughts are on this. Most interesting teams to land Michael Penix in the second round: the Seattle Seahawks.
I can see that staying in Washington. Mm-hmm.
How about this one? The New York Jets.
They need an answer after Aaron Rodgers, whenever he decides to retire or get traded to the Vikings, one or the other.
Yeah. Now, this one is my least favorite of the group. The New York Giants. I think that puts a little too much pressure on him early, but I think
True.
that's a very
True.
realistic, possibility. And then 2 more, the New Orleans Saints.
Okay, I like that
Because
one.
Derek Carr, if I'm not mistaken, is going in the final year of his contract.
I think so, but they
Or
restructured his
headed towards
contract
like a
too.
cut point too, where they can.
I think they got a
yeah,
chance to sort of opt out so they can
Yeah.
sort of move on if they want to. So yeah, I can see it happening.
This is my favorite one because you have a
Okay.
quarterback that needs a little bit of help with his footwork, but his deep accuracy is generally pretty good. He just has that kind of explosive mentality. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I don't actually.
This is the first time I'm ever going to say this team should land a good player. Los Angeles Rams, you go get that man.
Los Angeles Rams. That
How
actually
about
be a
that?
very good situation.
As Stafford's successor?
Situation. Behind Matthew Stafford, you got a guy that's, an all-pro Super Bowl winner, obviously. So just like that's a guy that you want to develop from.
Good coach, good mentor.
And you look at Sean McVay's offense too, like that could fit as far as his style too. So I'm like, yeah, that would be pretty sensational for the Rams if they could sort of make that happen. So do you think they'd entertain that at 19?
I don't think at 19.
I
think there are too many. I think there are too many weaknesses on defense, and
they have other holes to fill for sure.
Yeah.
But it's just like, hey, I don't know.
Now, maybe if they get the right trade offer from, I don't know, like
That's true. If they trade down, that's very much
like if the Raiders are calling up, like, hey, we want Penix at 19, we'll give you second round, first rounder next year. I mean, for the first time in 10 years, the Rams will actually be stockpiling draft picks.
I know exactly the exact opposite, right, of FDM picks, right? So, all right, Taylor, let's close out the episode. Let's talk about some quarterbacks that probably are not being talked about a lot. It's just guys that maybe you're either high on or guys that you're low on. Just really quick, just who's a guy that you kind of want to talk about here?
So, look, a guy that I'm kind of low on, and I'm going to come off more critical than I see. I'm too nice to be a GM. I'm going to come off more critical than I want to be, but I just don't get the hype around him. And that's JJ McCarthy.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Just,
He's a very polarizing prospect.
You and I'm going to give him, another, the audience, another sneak peek into our master doc and everything of how we interact behind the scenes, because, the one thing I kept saying to myself while I was watching this tape was, okay, good. I never once was like, whoa, or like, wow, that was a sick throw. Like there were times where I was like, wow, that accuracy. Okay. But there was nothing like, Penix, even Bo Nix did this a couple times. Definitely the top three. There were times where I was like, that was awesome. Never said that with McCarthy. Just never said that. Now, on the flip side of that coin, I never said like, ooh, that was really bad.
That's true.
Like I also never said that. So I was like, you know what? He's kind of like a noodle arm quarterback who is, to be fair, pretty accurate. And like, you just know what you're going to get in him. So in my notes,
I said ice cream. It's like,
yeah,
it's consistently going to be good for you, but it's not anything that exciting where you're like, oh my God, there's hot fudge. It's like, you need to add some things to that vanilla ice cream to make it a sundae. And that's exactly.
And it's funny. So speaking of vanilla ice cream, let's bring up two white guys.
You seriously are going to get our show canceled. Like, you need to stop. You seriously need to stop.
So Vanilla Bean,
even joking. Like, stop.
Vanilla Bean number one is I compared him to Jimmy Garoppolo. And I thought, because again, like, not saying that Garoppolo is noodle armed, but you knew what his ceiling was. He was a solid starter / very good backup. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then you commented under me. I was going to say Alex Smith, Vanilla Bean number 2. But yeah, no, that also works. I was like, you know what? Alex Smith works too. And that just shows how, like, vanilla JJ McCarthy is. It's just like, he's perfectly solid. And so could you talk me into him being a first rounder? 100%.
Yeah.
But should he be this guy that people are talking? Hell, I even did this in my last mock where the Patriots trade at number 3, the Vikings trade all the way up to number 3 for this player. I just saw another mock, 2 days ago. I'm trying to remember the team. I think it might have been the Vikings. Somebody trade up to number 4 to get him. And I don't think it was some surprise team. It doesn't matter. But point being is someone's going to trade up for this guy because he's going to be gone before 10 or 11 in all likelihood. I don't see that much promise in him where I'm like, I need him. If I'm, another team, I think this is kind of what the Broncos are doing of like, Bo Nix is going to fall to it. Yeah, hell yeah, we'll take Bo Nix. Because like, I like Bo Nix better than JJ McCarthy at this point. Maybe that opinion will change over the next couple of weeks, but I doubt it. It just seems like, and my biggest problem with McCarthy is not his inexperience, because 28 games, while not a lot, isn't terrible. It's that Michigan never asked him to carry the team. And I say this as a Michigan fan. And it was the most frustrating thing about watching our offense was Blake Corum. This third-string running back you never heard of who's going to run for 100 yards and you're never going to see him again. I was like, okay, so what the hell is McCarthy doing? It's like roll out, and 5-yard pass, and we're good. And the one game I truly saw Michigan ask JJ McCarthy, we need your arm to get us back in this game. And I swear to God, I'm not just saying this because of what game it was. It was the Fiesta Bowl against TCU. And to McCarthy's credit, they did have a pretty cool comeback, but fell short. And I don't trust McCarthy as a quarterback who can carry my team.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because it's like I said, the reason that I brought up Alex Smith was because Kansas City had Alex Smith after he was traded from San Francisco to Kansas City. There's a reason they moved on to Patrick Mahomes because Alex Smith was getting to the playoffs. They were winning playoff games as well. They were winning the division as well. But just like, yeah, exactly. They got to a point where just like, can he take us further? It wasn't looking that way with Alex Smith, unfortunately. So that's right. Let's go to the next guy, Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, he's now won the Super Bowl 3 times with it. So it's like, there's a reason that they made that change. We're just like, yeah, you're going to get a good quarterback, but are you going to get a great quarterback? That's the thing with JJ McCarthy. I don't know if I see that as well. So
and if I'm trading a boatload of picks for him, I better sure shit be getting a great quarterback.
Exactly. So you need to be very comfortable that it's like you could build your offense around him and you could be okay with him being just that guy who could sort of get you a lot of wins and run your offense, but not take your offense to another level. So that's the thing. So that's why, like, a lot of people are pegging that maybe Denver, I think you initially possibly had, no, I think you had Denver taking Bo Nix, but just like potentially Denver could take JJ McCarthy because Sean Payton is going to be like, you know what? You just run my offense. We don't need you to be extraordinary. You just need to run your offense. So it's like, Drew Brees was that kind of guy. He was an accurate guy. He was a guy that was just going to be like, exceptional on every single level, but he was a guy that just managed to get, he took it obviously to another level. Obviously,
you're pissing off a lot of Saints.
I know. He took it to another level as he was in the league a lot longer. So maybe JJ McCarthy could take that same path, but I think that's a very good landing spot for him. If he lands in Denver, Sean Payton could potentially get more out of it. So we'll see about that. But as of right now, what I'm seeing, I agree with you. It's a very Jimmy Garoppolo, Alex Smith, that type of quarterback where it's just like, he'll be good, but not great. But a guy that intrigues me a lot, and I texted you this after I was watching the combine with this guy.
I can't wait to hear this because I have yet to watch a single second of tape of this guy. So
but I think this is so interesting here. I'm talking about Devin Leary, the quarterback out of Kentucky. So he is obviously following the shoes of Will Levis, and Will Levis had a great season. But so I'm not saying he's Will Levis, but I think just watching him, I think I see very much a quarterback that's just like kind of similar things that we're saying with JJ McCarthy. I think he's going to be a very good quarterback. I think he's going very underrated because when I watch him, he's got pinpoint accuracy. He's got once again, some of the things I was talking about with Drake Maye were just like, the ball looks good coming out of his hands. He's finding receivers, when they're getting into the red zone, he's going, throwing good fade routes to his receivers to get catches in the corner of the end zone. He's hitting his receivers in stride so they can make plays with the ball after get some good run after the catch sort of things, right? He's comfortable under center. He can also go under shotgun. He can go to the pistol formation as well. Just overall, there's a lot of things that you'd like, but I think just the biggest thing is he's a little bit undersized. He comes in at 6'1", about 210. So, that's not the greatest size that you want. So, you need to be a little bit more extraordinary if you want to get drafted a lot higher. So most likely he's going to be a day 3 pick, but I think if he lands in the right system, I think he's perfectly suited for like a West Coast type of offense, a run first type of offense, and he can sort of manage that. I think he eventually develop into a very capable starter. Something that you're sort of saying about JJ McCarthy, I think give a year or two, Devin Leary can grow into that type of quarter because that's what I'm sort of seeing on tape. So, I just, like I said, watch the tape on him because, like I said, there's a lot of things about him that I like. He's not a good deep ball passer, so he's not going to go to an offense like, he's not going to go to Washington with Cliff Kingsbury. He's not going to go to like Kansas City or anything like that if they needed a quarterback need where it's just like you get Aaron out. He's not going to go to Miami. He's not that type of quarterback. But if you need a quarterback like, very similar to San Francisco, Los Angeles with the Rams, probably Jim Harbaugh's offense, like that's a good fit for him as well. Like those types of like West Coast run first offenses, he's a good suit for that. So, but yeah, Devin Leary is a day 3 prospect as a quarterback. There's a lot to like there.
Okay, so 3 things. 1, he is not a fit for Jim Harbaugh's offense. Max Duggan is. And Max Duggan is going to make that active roster and be the best backup in the league.
Sure. Is that what's going to make Quentin Johnson better? Is playing with Max Duggan?
Exactly. Hey, it worked in college. Vanilla Bean number 3, Max Duggan.
Oh, jeez.
Number 2, I found the mock draft I was talking about because I almost texted you earlier about this. So first off, I was wrong. It was the Vikings trading up at number 3 to get Drake Maye, which I'm also pretty sure is what I did in my last mock draft. So apologies. At number 4, though, the Cardinals trade out and take JJ McCarthy. That was the surprising thing. Or the Cardinals trade out with Denver, and Denver takes JJ McCarthy at 4. Which that would be shocking, especially because, and Chargers fans will love that, in this mock draft, they get Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 5, which would potentially be the best draft pick of all time.
Like that would, that'd be fantastic.
Oh my God. 3 is the reason I almost texted you is this was a full 7-round mock on ESPN. They had, what's this, Duvernay?
Devin Duvernay, yeah.
Little alliteration going on there. They have him going at the bottom half of the 5th round to the New Orleans Saints.
Interesting.
Like you said, let him develop a little bit there. Like maybe he becomes.
Oh wait, you're talking about the quarterback, Devin Leary. I thought you were talking about the receiver, Devin Duvernay. I was like, what are you talking about?
I knew that wasn't right. When I said Duvernay, I was like, what is going on? I'm not even blaming on entirely. Clearly, Leary, I know nothing about this guy, but yeah, Devin Leary, end of the 5th round to the Saints. Due to
I like that.
Why do I do this to myself? Due to one of their compository
picks. Yes, that's actually the right. Yeah,
we do this every year. We really need to cement this down. But yeah, no, I think from everything you told me, that could be an interesting fit.
There you go. So yeah, Devin Leary, like I said, watch some tape on him. I think he could be a very intriguing prospect on day 3 for sure. So
Devin Duvernay too.
All right, let's get to the end of our episode here. I mean, Tad, you sort of teased this a few times, but yeah, let's definitely pay it off now. But guys, we're going to be releasing our top 10 rankings for the quarterback position. You can find them on our social media handles. We'll be dropping them on both Twitter as well as Instagram. So yeah, guys, please follow us on our social media handles. We'll be dropping position rankings for all the positions, starting with quarterback. So you got us on Twitter. You got me at UpTheSide23, Tad Side94, got the show handle at DSI Guys, and on Instagram at DSI Guys as well. So guys, we'll be dropping rankings for every position group as we get closer to the NFL draft. We may not do an episode for every position, but we'll have a graphic 100% for every position. So you'll have our rankings there. Lots of intrigue as far as the quarterbacks there. Tad's got some interesting ones. I got some interesting ones as well. So, guys, please follow us on our socials so you're up to date with that, as well as you're up to date with our podcast. Make sure you listen, subscribe wherever you're listening. Watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe there. Guys, please give support to our parent network at LAFB Network. They're giving you a lot of great content. Tad talked about the Chargers at 5. Maybe Marvin Harrison's there. Maybe they're going to go a different direction. They're giving you a lot of great content there. The Rams are picking at the 19 in the first round for the first time in a long time. They're giving you a lot of great content with them. And, of course, they got you covered with the college teams as well, the Bruins and the Trojans. So lots of great content, guys. Please give the support because without them, there would be no us. But, guys, to everybody who's already following us on social media, who's interacting with us, who's listening to the podcast, watching the videos, I mean, just anything and everything that you're doing, we can't thank you enough.
And guys, like Amir said, is we have all these rankings coming out, and we have a lot more draft content coming out as well, not just on socials, but also via YouTube, podcasts, everything. We have some very big ideas. I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't know what we're going to be able to pull off because other people other than us are involved. So if you're a fan of any of the other LAFB shows, we're doing our best to pull in as many co-hosts as possible to have some fun, hear some analysis. So be sure to keep tuning in because we'll keep you guys updated as soon as we have this stuff confirmed. But until then, I just want to say that we're trying hard to get you as much draft content as possible, including, like I said, I really am excited for this year's live stream. I think it's going to be great. You're going to hear good, truthful analysis. None of this oh, no, we need to talk up Jayden Daniels so the ratings don't go down. And look, if the fit for Jayden Daniels sucks, we're going to say it sucks. I literally walked off the set being my living room last year because, yeah, exactly. But
your producer Cap, is that what it was?
if he is, he needs to be fired. But the whole point being is and that was the Colts pick, my favorite team. I was not going to pretend like I was happy. I was not going to hype this guy up because, and yes, I was wrong before you bring that up, because it's my favorite team. We're not going to BS you guys like that. We're going to give you this cold, hard truth when it comes to the NFL.
Yeah, instant live reaction when the Niners took Jake Moody in the 3rd round. I was like, what are we doing?
That is still maybe that may be my top moment in show history. But point being is we have a lot of awesome draft stuff headed your way that's really going to ramp up over the next couple of weeks. So best way to find out is definitely social media right below, like Murray shout it out. And also just keep tuning in. We're going to make announcements on the show. So as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And please stay safe.